Welcome to the Future Salespeople's weekly sales round robin. This week, Alex Guest and I have something really insightful to share with everyone today, and it's going down this theme of inbound versus outbound sales. Today, we really want to start talking to you all and help you better understand the differences between the two, how to approach it, and does the chicken come before the egg or the egg before the chicken? I don't know, Alex. Tell me more.
Yeah, great intro there, Andrew. I mean, this is something that we hear a lot from our prospects and our prospective clients. They want to learn more about inbound or outbound sales. Some of them are starting their first sales process. Some of them are looking to add the other type. And without spoiling too much of the ending, we don't think of them as mutually exclusive. We recommend that people take both approaches because ultimately it's going to win you more opportunities. And based off of this statistic from HubSpot, we see the more opportunities you have, the more likely you are to hit your revenue goals. I think there's a number of reasons for that. Obviously, more opportunities means more potential revenue, but there's also a piece where you are diversifying revenue, which diversifies your risk and can add more consistency to your production. There's also a piece of this, just as you are generating more and more opportunities, that likely means that you have a more consistent, a more stable and scalable sales model. And that would typically indicate that either you've nailed one or the other, inbound or outbound, or you have both and they're working together complementary. What do you think, Andrew? Anything that I might have missed there?
No, I think you really hit it on the head there when you're talking about creating stable and predictable and consistent revenue, right? It's not one or the other. It is a mixture of both. And I think that is really one of the biggest takeaways from this entire presentation today. It's not one or the other, it's both. So
not one or the other, it's both. So in order to decide where you get started and how you're going to add things moving forward, we wanted to compare and contrast these two things, but also address the elephant, or rather the chicken and the egg in the room. How are you supposed to build either an inbound or an outbound process without knowing which is best, which to start with, which to add later? And this can be really tough for a lot of different organizations. When we think about outbound sales, I think the most important thing is that sales owns both the awareness funnel and the sales funnel. That's contrasted by an inbound sales process where the awareness funnel is really driven by marketing, and then the sales funnel is owned by sales. When it comes to a couple of the other features here, when you're considering, do you want to dedicate more time, energy, resources to outbound or inbound? Outbound tends to be cheaper because you're just investing in people and you're not having to spend a whole lot on marketing. Often outbound's referred to hunting because it's very active. You can control your own destiny in this. If you don't have enough opportunities coming inbound, you can always go out and find more. And then typically you also see faster results with outbound. Results not being success here, results being able to get the data that you need to optimize and iterate on things quickly. Conversely, outbound sales takes more experience. You typically need to hire reps and leaders who have outbound sales experience because it's not analogous to inbound sales experience. It can be very painful if you try to take an inbound rep or an inbound manager and try to force them into outbound for the first time. It's going to stall your growth. It also requires higher activity. So if you're not going to hire anybody into your organization to manage these sales, you need to understand that it does take dedicated and consistent effort on a daily basis to see the best results. So if you're a founding team, if you're getting started for the first time, you're wearing multiple hats, if you're going to go outbound, you need to understand that you need to dedicate time on a daily basis. And then finally, longer sales is a big thing. Andrew and I generally say that an outbound sales cycle is going to be about 2 to 3 times what an inbound sales cycle takes. And that's because you have both of those funnels. You have the awareness funnel, you have the sales funnel. So you're essentially doubling the amount of time that it takes to close a deal. On the flip side is inbound. So it requires a lot less experience. Typically, good sales leaders can hire somebody with no sales experience, turn them into an effective inbound rep. There's lower activity required because you're putting a lot out there through marketing and waiting for about 60% of the sales process to occur before somebody comes to you and converts into a lead. And then because so much of that buying is done in advance, you typically see a shorter sales cycle. The downside, though, it's expensive. Not only do you need to pay for those marketing resources, either in-house or through an agency, but you need to pay for ad campaigns and to get your content in front of your audience. It's very much farming, so you don't have that same ability to go out and get more opportunities if you have a lighter month or if you have more time on your hands. And then finally, those results are slower. So optimizing and iterating towards success can take more time. Andrew, before I pass things off to you, anything you think I missed here as we're kind of running through that breakdown?
No, I thought the breakdown was really helpful. And especially, I think the big takeaway in really comparing and contrasting these two is outbound is you are helping people understand they have problems or helping them understand what needs they may have. And inbound, they have needs, they're coming to you. So you're right, the outbound is extending just because you're trying to take the education cycle, and the inbound is condensing it. Doesn't mean that those activities aren't happening in the background with you or without you present there. So I thought you did a beautiful job, guest.
Perfect. Well, passing things off to you.
It's the agreement podcast or video today. Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny, right? So like I was just going through that screen and thinking too of like, oh yeah, it is expensive because inbound sales, we have to give them more materials, we have to educate them. But where do you actually start off with this, right? And it's funny when Alex and I were talking about this and we're like, well, how do most startups actually start? How are they selling? And it's actually probably a hybrid of both outbound and inbound in so many ways, right? And what does this look like? What do the initial sales attempts really look like? And for outbound sales and for many founders and early executive teams, they have this misalignment of what outbound sales really is in some ways, because they're selling to their friends, they're selling to their family, they're selling to people that they know, and so they think they're selling this outbound context, and they're really not. However, they are getting more information from people they know, and they're starting to learn, right? It is pretty interesting to me, though, when it comes to this in your initial attempts, right? So outbound, you have more time than anything else, right? So you're going to go after, you're able to go ahead and put that effort into it. Another benefit of going outbound, or why you might want to start there first, is you have an established market, you have an established problem. You don't have to go out and actually educate the market about the problem you're solving or what you're trying to do as a business. Others have tempered those waters or tempered the universe for you. And then the inbound, why would you necessarily start there? Perhaps you've already raised a ton of money. You don't have all the time in the world, but you've raised a good amount of capital. Another good qualifier for focusing on inbound first or as your primary is there's a lot of natural interest in this, right? So, are you working in the virtual capacity today? Are you helping facilitate virtual meetings or virtual trainings? That might have a lot of natural interest, and so you might want to capitalize on that. The other thing that I think is really kind of a big one going back to the outbound is buying requirements. It makes more sense to go after an outbound attempt if you have more requirements to meet to actually make your purchase, right? Safety, technical, various departments, functions going ahead and giving their blessing. So that's why you might lead with an outbound motion. Yeah, guest, what did I miss? What can I have articulated better?
No, I think you make a really good point there, specifically around those buying requirements. Inbound sales is very easy, and sometimes to the degree that you don't need any salespeople at all. We would call that kind of self-service model or revenue model when it's a single person and they don't have many buying requirements. But as soon as you start to add additional buyers and an internal buying process, and then to your point, they have different buying requirements across those different functions and those different people, it can be really hard to try to serve that from an inbound perspective, where it's very content driven, it's very thought leadership driven, because that would require somebody to be the champion internally to circulate all those materials to sell that internally. So typically that means that after you're done with these kind of initial sales processes, maybe you do want to explore an outbound sales model first, but it doesn't stop there. Once you have that initial model that you're going after, there are additional ways to move forward to hit those complementary sales models.
Totally. And I love, thank you for teeing that up. And this goes back to the very first statistic at the beginning of the presentation. How do you have sales success? Is it inbound or is it outbound? and it's neither. It's primary and secondary, right? So you're going to start off with what initially makes most sense for your organization. Hopefully that prior slide helps you kind of hone in, are we more outbound fit or more of an inbound fit? And regardless if you're outbound or inbound, you do need to start off with some basic foundational levels, right? You need to first and foremost have a CRM set up, have data actually coming into it, right? So we have data generation, but CRM data generation coming in. You need to have some sort of sales funnel, as well as a common understanding of what processes, right? You need to have a common language, common approach, and common understanding before you start going crazier, right? So you're going to go ahead once you have this and start launching out into the marketplace with your inbound or outbound capabilities. From here, you're going to start trying to figure out, how can we stabilize some of these aspects, right? And so we are striving for stability, predictability, consistency in our results. And once we have that, then we can start looking at the complementary sales modality. So if we started in outbound, and now that we're seeing stable, predictable, and consistent revenue growth, then we can start investing into inbound, or vice versa. Guest, help me sound more intelligent there.
You've got it. Yeah. So if you think about VNOT, so your first version of sales, it's going to be what we talked about on the last slide. So it's going to be tapping into your professional network, your family and friends. It's going to be the opportunities you kick up as you're validating product market fit and your ideal customer profiles. Once you decide what's going to make the best sense based off your product and your market and your resources that you have available, make sure you get your CRM set up. You have a defined sales funnel. Your people that are executing on that sales process are adhering to it, so you can get good data, and then make sure that that data is being generated so you can make better decisions based off of it moving forward. Your next step is to aim for stability, predictability, and consistency before you think about adding more complexity through the alternate sales model. And that's what we would call complementary sales. So complementary sales is going to help you get more opportunities, but in reality, it should help you capture more of the opportunities that you're already getting, because you can put them through different buyer journeys to optimize their experience.
Nailed it.
What's up next?
Ooh, what's up next? Up next is how to sell features, benefits, and values. And I think this goes along the whole lines of the recent kind of series that we've had, from inbound, outbound, prospecting, messaging. This is really going to be that next step. So if you're deciding between inbound and outbound, you still need to figure out the features that matter, ultimately the benefits and the value that your services or your goods are providing your customers. So that's what's up next, Mr. Guest. And if you want to see that, Mr. or Mrs. Viewer or Circle Viewer, comment, like, subscribe. We look forward to sharing this content with you, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, everyone.
Be well.